Hey there, Fear fans, and welcome back to the Z-Man Show. Today we're talking about episode 11 from season 4, and it's called The Code. And so normally I know we go through like the entire episode and kind of what went down, and I know you guys, some of you all enjoyed that, but we're actually going to maybe talk about some of the characters we met today, and some of the decisions being made, and seeing if we like where the show's going with this. So here we go. Welcome to the show. So we had a pretty interesting episode on our hands here today. So Morgan's on the road, he's making his way. He comes across this truck that he manages to get into the huge semi because of the huge storm that's going on, right? And so then he falls asleep in there and he finds himself in Mississippi, almost 400 miles it seems from his last location when he was near all the friends in Texas. So he gets inside, he manages to get on the CB radio, whatever, and he talks to a mysterious woman kind of saying, hey, take whatever you need from there and just leave whatever you don't. Again, this concept we've seen in some of the boxes that some of the others have found, including Alicia. And so we're kind of figuring out. And so all of a sudden, Lenny's kind of making himself at home. He goes to use the bathroom. They have running water. They have electricity. All pretty cool. And next thing you know, you hear a shotgun kind of choke up. So number one, how awesome of a scene was that between them? I just immediately kind of set the tone a little bit what was going on. But again, we're trying to figure out who are these guys and what are they all about. So we meet Wendell. Okay, so Wendell seems he has no longer the use of his legs. He's in a wheelchair, but he seems like he's really good with his shotgun and he's ready to go. And so he catches Morgan off guard, starts questioning him about a lot of things. So and then moments later, we see Wendell's another companion come in, not his companion, excuse me, but he calls it his twin sister, but she's a full white woman. Not that that's not possible. I'm mixed myself, but it was kind of interesting. Kind of threw us kind of like all off guard for a second there. But they say we're going to find out more about that later this season, so we'll just wait till we find out more of the story. But all the same, so her name is Sarah, and again we have Wendell, so he's in the wheelchair, and so Morgan's trying to tell them about what he's up to, and is trying to make his way back to his friends originally in Virginia, which is obviously Rick's crew, but he also wants to try and go back and out and see if he can still save Alicia and some of the others. So, some of the interesting things, so I'm trying to figure out immediately, what are these guys all about? They have all these supplies. They're saying how, this is kind of like their operation, how they're there to help people. Well, as we find out, just fast forward through it all, they're full of shit. They actually hijacked this truck from another guy and left him on the side of the road, surprisingly with a box of supplies. Hey, thanks for that. Thanks for taking my truck, my livelihood, but leaving me the supplies. But, these guys there's the scavengers of a sort, but they're just trying to survive, just like a lot of other people. So not fully evil, but also not exactly great-hearted either. But they kind of fooled us a little bit. They sent Morgan off on his way with a couple cases of water, some supplies and whatever, and said, good luck, and even gave him a car. So Morgan ends up getting caught on the road, some huge tree and some whatnot going down, and he can't make it past. And then I thought that was a very interesting scene when Morgan makes it finally to that bridge area, and he kind of hits this crossroads, and I couldn't really tell what the words in the background were. I assume they were of Strand and Alicia and some of the comments they had made towards him, and how he was really thinking to himself, am I really going to travel all this way back to these people who they don't even really want my help? I mean, I figured that's what's probably going through his brain. I mean, it seemed like he was, like I said, definitely at a crossroads, and he couldn't figure out what he really wanted to do, and then it just kind of hit him. He gets back on the walkie. He asks if Sarah and Wendell can maybe drive him to Virginia the rest of the way. He tells him that the bridge was taken out, and clearly from the camera angle, there's nothing wrong with the bridge, which I was kind of surprised that he lied to him like that, because these guys would clearly have been traveling these roads a lot. I would figure that they would probably know that that bridge was not taken out. But all the same, he made the choice and ends up coming to bite him back in the ass later. Sarah ends up calling him out, saying like, yeah, you're calling us out for not being truthful, but you weren't truthful either. You said you were going to go back to help your so-called friends, and you didn't even go. I mean, do these friends even exist? So you can kind of see, if you look from the other side of Wendell and Sarah, they're like, is Morgan really truthful, and is he a stand-up guy or not? Morgan ends up calling himself out as a coward later in the show, which I have to say, I don't think he's a coward. I mean, Alicia and them, they didn't want his help. John Dory, he didn't want to go with them. He said he wanted to stay there with Laura/June, whatever, and Charlie, and do this kind of like little family thing, or at least pretend to be. And Strand and Luciana, they weren't on board either. Strand just kind of wants to get drunk and just live his days out in that mansion, I guess. And Luciana just kind of half to the wind, just trying to get over Nick and all her losses. So it was kind of interesting choices going on there, but all the same, we saw some really neat interaction. But I thought what was most crazy, so we see that Morgan finally gets on the road, and as he's heading back, he sees a guy running in the field. and so he had something over his head, and he's blind, and his wrists are bound from the back, and he's just trying to get away from some walkers that are trailing him big time. Pretty cool, intense scene. I really enjoyed it, by the way. And Morgan kind of gets in there and saves the day, and we find out that this guy's name is Jim. I'm going to call him Jimbo just because there's a scene in there with that, and Jimbo just kind of suits this guy. But all the same, so Jimbo, he is a crafter of beer, right? He's a brewer. And he loves beer more than it seems, almost than life itself. It seems he almost was rich at one point in time, about to sell his microbrewery off to some head chain, in the U.S. or whatever, and he had done all the right things, or wrong things for that matter, but still, he was about to make it. Then the apocalypse hit. So he is just obsessive compulsive over this dream that he never fully got to have, and he wants to be rich, and he also thinks that beer can be, it could be a part of like a medicine for people as well as drinking, and it just kind of makes the world evolve and go around. So I thought Jim, let me call him Jim. Yeah, Jim's character was very interesting, and I kind of like him. I mean, yeah, he's kind of living a pipe dream, but it seems he's still all about the future, though, what he can build and what he can bring to the table, and then hopefully maybe I guess he can make it off of a bartering system with his brewing, because there can't be that many brewers still alive that have all the equipment, mind you, let alone know how to craft a good beer. So Jim's character is very interesting. Like I said, I did like Wendell and Sarah just because, their style and whatever. I'm not sure if I really fully trust them, and I'll tell you, there's some things that went down as the episode was ending off. So at one point, Jim and Morgan are kind of on this little bridge area, whatever, a different bridge later on, and they're making their way, and Sarah and Wendell want Morgan to tell them the correct address for the Virginia compound, Alexandria, and all those, so they can get there. Which I'm kind of wondering why he didn't just tell them almost, because there are two people. But then again, if they knew others, I guess that could be a risk. So maybe that's why he didn't tell them. But Rick would have laid those two out 3 ways from Sunday, or even Maggie. So I'm just like, these two do not pose a threat, even if they knew another set of truckers. If they can face Negan, they can certainly face these little rabble of fools. But all the same, they're talking on the bridge, and friggin' Jim, clumsy ass, knocks into Morgan, and Morgan falls down part of the embankment, and he's bound with his wrist in the back of his waist. And so you know how hard it is to get on your feet, and so he's trying to get around. All these walkers start swarming him. He manages to get on that vehicle, right? Talk about an intense scene. I thought for sure he's screwed. Obviously not going to try and kill him off, not this early and not like that. But moreover though, Jim and Wendell are kind of like, yeah, I don't do the whole saving thing. Jim says he's been held up in his brewery since the apocalypse, so he's kind of like the Alexandrians. They're just not fighters, and they probably don't know 2 cents about it. And then Wendell, of course, he's in a wheelchair. That kind of makes sense. And then even Sarah's just kind of like, yeah, I guess you're just shit out of luck. So she's talking on the walkie. Wow, talk about just leaving somebody to die. I understand it's a cutthroat world, and you got to do what you can to survive, but just walking away from somebody like that, knowing that you could have probably tried to do something, a sound distraction, who knows what, but they did nothing. They just got in the vehicle and they left. So Morgan sits there, contemplates for a while, finally decides he's not ready to die, and he manages to make a pretty cool move. And my wife and I were kind of sitting there telling, well, maybe he can jump off the the hood or something, except he jumped off the very top part of the SUV, which, man, you could sprain an ankle, you could do a lot of stuff, but he manages to get to the side. It all looked legit and pretty well choreographed, and he even grabs that road sign and just kind of hacks that one in the head, and then gets that knife from, by the way, a box of those supplies that guy had been leaving on the side of the road for people at every 4 on the mile marker, I think they said. But he had left that for people, and I guess you might think, oh, they're just going to get rotted out, or people are just going to take it all. But one of the boxes had been washed down the embankment, and I'll be damned, there was a knife in there, and he was able to get it and cut his wrist. That's how Morgan was able to get away. Talk about coming full circle for somebody's cause to try and help others. They saved his life right there. And Morgan will probably save other people's lives because of that. Just that chain effect. So, pretty cool. Overall, guys, this episode, I had a lot of neat things going on. I kind of like the whole on the road with the trucking kind of aspect. Also seeing that full laid out mini mart with stuff and the power and the water and stuff. You almost wonder why they'd even want to leave or get away. Because eventually somebody's going to come across them and they're going to want what they have. Obviously it won't be the vultures, but man, that would have been a heyday score for them as well. So, but I want to say overall this episode, I'm going to give this episode about a 7.5 out of 10. A lot of fun stuff going on. It's had some cool walker kills. Morgan seems like he lost his staff. He'll have to make a new one. But yeah, he was kicking some butt, and it looks like we picked up a couple new people. But moreover, as we end this episode off, what about the mysterious chick, which I don't know if she has some kind of skin disease. I'm just not sure. It just looked like she was burnt, but it looked like something was going on. But I believe her name is Stevie, and then they referenced that earlier on in the show. Sarah walks in the doors. I had to replay it a couple times to hear exactly what she said. But he says, sounds like Stevie didn't tell us about our guest here, because Morgan said I had talked to a person on the CB radio. And remember when it was like, wait, you talked to somebody on the radio? And I was getting kind of confused at that scene, because I was like, so Wendell, are you saying that you're surprised somebody answered on the other side, or were you just surprised that he knew even to turn it on and try to reach somebody? So something's going on. We're not quite sure what. If you think you know what's going on, please mention in the comments. I'd really be curious to know. The last scene of the show, as you know, it's Stevie, and she kind of looks over to this zombie that's skewered to the wall with one of those metal hanging rods, you know, on the corkboard or whatever. Pegboard, pardon me. And his name's Purvis. Well, how about fitting name, Dead Purvis, over on the wall. And she goes over with the marker and starts writing on his front of his face, you know, take what you need and leave what you don't, or whatever, all that. So I'm like, whoa, crazy lady, what's this all about? So we're not quite sure. Like, so does she know Wendell and Sarah? I mean, or did they have run-ins or crossings or so forth? Was she trying to catch up with them? Clearly, she's hell-bent on getting to Texas. She knows where they're going, and she even says it out loud. So I'm very curious, and I hope you guys are too. Seems the show's going in the right direction, even though with the loss of Madison and both Nick. I mean, obviously there's a lot of other characters, but they're finding their strengths. It was probably a smart move that they ported Morgan over, because Morgan has that strength, and he's a great actor. Lenny James is a very great actor, and so he's able to kind of keep that show moving in the right direction, along with the rest of the cast, of course. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this quick little review and just talking out some of the ideas. Let me know what you're thinking about the season. Is it up to your expectations? I know some of them have mentioned that they don't kind of like these one-offs when they're only looking at a few characters, but I believe it progresses the story still. It's just looking at a little bit more in depth on certain characters, which kind of helps us build those relationships and help us understand if we like them or if we don't like them. And also don't forget that I'm going to mention again, our episode 6 is right around the corner. I'd say we're about 70-75% done complete with it. Still trying to get through a few last things, so please be patient with us as we finish it out. Until then, I'm Mike Schilling with the Z-Man Show, and we'll see you next time. See ya.